our propellers, our blades, and our tower parts. Each one of these is longer than an 18-wheeler. So they will attach one blade or one tower part to an 18-wheeler, and then that becomes an extended load. There's actually a blade on trucks further back. You can see those. This port, McClure Terminal Port, they began taking these blades, these wind tower parts, back in 2006. And we've been growing in the amount every year. This is one of our top imports that we have coming in. Last year we brought in 307,000 tons of this. And then we will put them on trains and take them anywhere in the country that's using the wind tower farms. Typically it's in the center, Texas up to the Dakotas. We have the ship, which is not on my cheat sheet. I can't tell you the name of this ship, but can you guys tell me, is this a Laker or a Salty? It is a Salty. How do you know?
Red. Because it's red.
It's red and it has a bulbous design. Excellent, yeah. And then the Navigator, the ship that was out that we saw, is going to be coming here as well, probably tomorrow, coming and offloading these parts. We are now passing Husky Fuel Terminal, aka the gas station, because everybody's got to have fuel. So ships will come up, they will go up against this dock, they will tie their lines or ropes around those blue cleats, get the ship nice and tight, and then you see the yellow crane. Below that there are some large hoses. That's where they pump the fuel. Husky Fuel Terminal can pump fuel at a rate of 9 gallons per second. And our ships will take anywhere from 50,000 to 80,000 gallons of fuel at a time. Diesel fuel. All right, now, if you're like me, you're doing math in your head. It's like, oh my gosh, 80,000 gallons of fuel. So here's another nerd fact. When you and I think about our fuel mileage, we think in terms of miles per gallon, right? 1 gallon of fuel will take me how many miles? Miles per gallon, yeah. Ships are just the opposite. It's how many gallons of fuel do I need to go 1 mile? A fully loaded vessel can require 24 to 40 gallons of fuel to move 1 mile. Which sounds absolutely atrocious until you start thinking about how much cargo they have. Some of our vessels are moving upwards of 76,000 tons of cargo. When you break that cargo down and you start putting it on trains or on trucks, now the fuel usage goes way up. A fully loaded vessel is 6 times more fuel efficient than a train and 60 times more fuel efficient than trucks. Additionally, I know ships put off pollution, but so do trains and trucks. And again, when you're looking at the amount of cargo that's being moved, ships put off less pollution. They're safer, and they don't cause the wear and tear on our interstate systems. So there's a lot of definite benefits to bringing cargo in on vessel. That's why the Twin Ports here in Minnesota, in the center of the country, horizontally, we are one of the busiest ports. Companies want to bring their cargo as far inland as possible. Now, the one downside to moving cargo by vessel is speed. Our ships, most of them have like a top speed maybe of about 21 miles per hour. And so, like those that are going out to Europe and they're going through that 2,400 plus miles of the St. Lawrence Seaway to get out to the ocean, top speed of 21 miles per hour, this is a slow process. We are going about 7 miles per hour right now. So these cargo containers that you see over here, we just learned a couple weeks ago, some of these are filled with grain that is going to be headed to Asia. So Asia uses a lot of rice, they don't use as much grain, but they still need some. They just don't need 46,000 tons on a ship. So we send them over in these cargo containers. And now we're passing 2 of our tugboats. We have the Arkansas and the North Carolina. These tugboats, they're part of Great Lakes Towing, and they are little workhorses. Each one of these tugboats has 14 feet of ship underneath the water line. That gives them a really low center of gravity. And that's really important as they're pushing these large ships. They can push ships that are 1,000 feet long and carrying 76,000 tons of cargo. And these little tugboats can push them. The way they do that is that low center of gravity. Think about it. If you stand up and you push something, you have a certain amount of strength. But if you squat low and put your shoulder into it, you have more strength. And that's the way these tugboats operate. When they go out, they're not cheap. They'll help any ship that needs assistance, but they charge $1,500 per tug per tow. And typically it takes 2 tugboats, one at the bow and one at the stern.
One at the back.
So we talked about our imports. One of our large imports is those wind turbine parts. Another major import that we have is powdered cement. And that comes here, it's offloaded at the CRH, this terminal that we're passing now. Now powdered cement has properties of concrete, go figure, right? So this powder, it kind of settles down, it settles in the ship, and it gets hard. So when they go to offload it, you have to break that up. So you see this arm, this one machine with the arm that comes out? That arm it's kind of like a half auger, half dust buster, if you will. They put that arm in the hold of the ship, they bust up that powder, and then they'll suck it up. Looking forward, we have a couple of bridges. Now this little small bridge has an interesting history. It was built in 1897. It's the old interstate bridge. And for about 60 years, that was the sole connector between Duluth, Minnesota and Superior, Wisconsin. Now this bridge was a swing bridge, meaning that it would just swing out to the side, 90 degrees either direction one direction to let ships come through. In 1906, at 1 o'clock in the morning, the freighter Troy was coming through. Captain signaled ahead to the bridge tender, said, "Please open the bridge, we're coming through." The bridge tender was asleep. Did not get that message, and the Troy slammed right into the bridge. Punched a hole in the bridge, and then the northern span, about 200 feet, just kind of shook and then collapsed into the water. There were now 31 ships trapped back in the harbor. So the city rushed out and they got the debris cleaned up as quickly as they could so the ships could get out and get back to business. And then the city rebuilt the bridge and continued using it for a long time, for several decades. However, lesson was learned. You never, ever want a ship hitting a bridge, right? All right, so fast forward to 1961 when the Blatnick Bridge was opened. That's the bridge we're going to be going under now, a very, very popular bridge. But look down at the water line. Either side of the vessel, doesn't matter, you're going to see 3 large, round structures. Those are concrete, and they're called fenders. Basically, they defend the bridge against ships. So there's a strong current that goes through right here. We also get fog, we get wind, we get waves. There's human error. Lots of things can go wrong. But if a ship goes off course, it will bump into those fenders and not touch the bridge. So the bridge stays safe. Now, interesting little nautical fact, because on vessels we have different words for everything. Those fenders, the nautical term for fenders is dolphins. So ladies and gentlemen, we just passed 6 dolphins here in Lake Superior.
How's everyone doing out here?
Good.
You have a question?
The structure is new and we're all asking.
Oh, they don't know what it is.
That's a good question.
right, now if you glance off to the starboard side, there's an island. And there's activity going on this island that was not happening last week, and I'm actually really excited to see this activity. So let me tell you about the island. It is a man-made island. It originally, they had train bridges that would go from Superior to that island and then to Duluth. So the trains would go. The train bridges have been torn down, the island remains, and birds have claimed that island. Gulls and terns love going to that island to breed. So in the springtime, we will have, it looks like snow. There's so many thousands of birds there breeding. Now, gulls are very, very hardy birds, and they can breed anywhere. Terns, on the other hand, aren't quite as hardy. And a lot of the work that's been done around the harbor has, sadly, it's destroyed their natural habitat. But the terns love this little island. The problem is gulls do not make good neighbors, and the gulls will eat the terns' eggs. So we've had experts that have gone out and they built like a structure in the middle of the island with some netting on it, so that the netting was small enough terns could fly in and be safe, but gulls couldn't get in there. So the terns were able to raise their eggs, hatch their eggs, raise their hatchlings. This island, the birds love the island, and last year the city had decided to put in like $1 million to expand the island so there would be more room for more birds. Breeding season is over. We don't have a lot of birds there now, obviously, but the city is out and they are doing some work, really, again, preserving this habitat for birds. There's one other lake, or one other island in Lake Superior that is a bird habitat, bird sanctuary, and that is near Ashland, Wisconsin, about 2 hours from here. Hour and a half.
Look at this big ship.
Off to the left, so much to talk about off to the left, or the port side of the vessel. So we're going to start off talking about the Indiana Harbor, the ship, and then we'll talk a little bit about Midwest Energy Terminal behind it. Indiana Harbor is a U.S. vessel. It is 1,000 feet long. There are 13 vessels on the Great Lakes that are 1,000 foot or longer. Indiana Harbor is one of them. The Indiana Harbor. Okay, so it is a laker, yes. The being 1,000 foot long, this gives the captain sits at the back, this large white structure at the stern of the vessel. That is the pilot house, that's where the captain sits. And the bow is where we're passing now. Now, being 1,000 foot long, this means the captain has about a 500 foot blind spot. Out in the open water, it is not a problem. However, when you're in the harbor, when you're maneuvering around, it definitely becomes an issue. So the captain will send someone to the front of the vessel, to the bow, send a deckhand, and that deckhand will radio back and forth with the captain to let him know. So you see the white structure that's kind of shaped like a phone booth? That's where our deckhands can go. Because I don't care what the weather is, if the captain can't see, we need a deckhand out there, right? All right. Now, the ships come in, okay, at the bow and at the stern, on both of these, the Indiana Harbor, there is a white circle with a fan in it. Do you guys see that? Those indicate bow and stern thrusters. A bow and stern thruster, the simplest way to explain it is it's a tunnel that goes from one side of the vessel to the other underneath the water line. So the captain can turn on these propellers and basically suck water in from one side of the vessel, expel it out the other, and that enables the captain to move the vessel laterally. Pretty slick. So the Indiana Harbor, when she comes in, she came in underneath the aerial lift bridge, coming straight forward. Prior to going under the Blatnik Bridge, though, these captains will turn the vessel around and go backwards, back in underneath the Blatnik Bridge, and back in and basically parallel park here by Midwest Energy. Then the Midwest Energy will load the coal. So we'll talk about Midwest Energy on a little bit in coming back. But Indiana Harbor, so we've got a bow and stern thruster, the white ship loader that goes parallel to the bow. Those were added because now there's a conveyor belt and they can use that to help load or offload cargo on the ship, usually. It is not needed here at Midwest Energy Terminal. So what they'll do is they'll take that arm. You can either take it up, it can go to the side, either side 90 degrees, or it can go up and just get out of the way. And they will get it out of the way here. So a ship the size of Indiana Harbor, how many people do you guys think work on that ship? You guys, these are awesome guesses. I mean, a lot of times people are telling me, oh, 50. No, way too high there. Probably 20, a max of 25, working on these ships. You've got your captain, a couple of first mates, kitchen crew, deckhands, somebody to do mechanical stuff. When they are coming into port and leaving port, that's when they're incredibly busy. But once they get out of port and they're just sailing on the water, there's not so much to do. I had a gentleman on one of the Vista Star cruises last year. He used to work on one of these vessels, and he said when you were out on the water, the schedule for the day is eat, play cards, sleep, and repeat. So they keep the cruise minimal.
That's a lot of seagulls. A lot of birds. Oh my gosh.
We've got lots of seagulls out in front of us. They're flying around. They're always fun to watch.
That's a lot of seagulls. That's a lot of seagulls.
How's everyone doing out here? Alright. Do you guys have any questions? Anything you want to hear about? Look, I didn't even know what is in front of us. I will talk about that here in just a moment. Absolutely. Train train. No. It's a completely different thing. That's a great question.
Had a young man just ask a wonderful question. He wanted to know if Midwest Energy Terminal, which is where the American Harbor was loading, if that dock was the same thing as the dock we're coming up on. They're actually two very, very different things. So I'll talk about the CN docks, Canadian docks now, and then as we pass back by the American Harbor, I'll talk about Midwest Energy Terminal. All right, so CN docks, Canadian Northern Docks. This is where we load iron ore in the form of taconite pellets. So we have two docks here. We have Dock 5 to the port side, and Dock 6, which is the one that we're going to be going right up next to. Dock 5 is closed. It is no longer active. Dock 6, however, can load taconite into 3 vessels at the same time. So here at the end where we're coming, a ship can stop on either side, and we can load 2 ships here and then we can load a third ship further in. At the top of this dock are 4 train tracks. And the train engineer will back the train in to the appropriate distance, and then basically he'll open his hoppers and just let the taconite fall out of the hopper. From there, it goes through these chutes, and basically it's called gravity loading. They just drop the taconite and let gravity take over, and they just direct the flow. And so a ship would go right up against this dock, and the taconite gets dropped in the middle of it, and it loads evenly. Now those are for smaller vessels. When you get larger vessels the size of the American Harbor,